Hello, wellness warriors. I'm really hoping that so I'm not sure what's going on. I thought I had some comments earlier, but now I don't see them. That's disappointing. But what I want today to be about is our interaction. This topic, I don't think is something that's for me to talk about in a vacuum because I honestly think that everybody uses their electrolytes in a different fashion. Like we definitely like I tried electrolytes and didn't find them useful. But some people find them really useful. So I want to know from you guys what what's your take on Element? So I'm going to give you a little bit of background of what happened, and then hopefully some people will chime in with their thoughts and we can talk about this a little further. But there's been some controversy about Element putting maltodextrin in their flavored versions of their electrolyte. Now, what I understand, and I've only watched two videos, I watched one from Dr. Boz, and I can't remember the other guy's name, and they gave two completely different views and versions of how they heard about this and what was going on. So, what I understand is that Element would have told us in a blog post at some point that there was, thank you, Pat, Michael. Okay, sorry. Um, yeah, so they would have told us in a blog post that they would put 0.04 grams of maltodextrin in Element when in fact it was zero point 0.4 grams. So, and then there's some testing that was done that apparently shows that it's about half a gram. And half a gram of maltodextrin doesn't seem like a lot, except for when you look at the company and the fact that it says no sugar right up front. So, like, very, but also, this is their website, no dodgy ingredients. So, the fact that there's maltodextrin in there isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is that it's not listed anywhere on the ingredient list. And you can poke around their site. The ingredient list is there somewhere. It's not written there. And what bothered me when I looked at the ingredient list is that it says natural flavors, which is where the maltodextrin is in there, and stevia extract. So their claim, and I think Dr. Boz and the other guy that I watched talked about the fact that the reason the maltodextrin apparently is there is a flavor carrier. So they have to attach the flavor to maltodextrin. Now, how true is that? I don't know. The problem that I have right now with this Wellness Warrior is that practically every company that gets caught telling us that something is hidden under flavors tells us, well, it's the thing that carries the flavors. So before I go too much in depth of that, I just want to back up and say something else about this company that I find really interesting. Right here, it says our story. So you can see this little our story. And if you click on our story at the top of the page, you get a video of them telling you their story. And this guy, the main person that you see on the screen is the person that had the experience of learning that he didn't have enough electrolytes and he was an athlete, and learning that from his coach that was the problem. That's why he wasn't progressing like everybody else on the team, or whatever the story was. And he tells you about it. And then there's a lady, I was really annoyed by her name, her last name being this lady, Violetti. Stealing my name. But anyways, this lady talks about how it's the goal of their company to change the fact that there's so much sugar in our world and not enough salt. Like the fact that it's reversed and we're doing the unhealthy thing. This story, as of the making of this video, is there for anyone to go and listen to. And if you want to know the story, go listen to it. It's interesting. But here's my problem. You're telling us that you want to change the fact that there's too much sugar in the world. You're telling us that you learned that by not having enough salt, which we are all aware that we are told that salt is causing high blood pressure when people in the keto, carnivore, low carb world have figured out, that it's actually the carbohydrates causing the problem. Well, I love that so he figured it out. He and his friends came together. They created a product to help the rest of the world. That's why I make my videos. The same thing happened to me. I figured something out and realized everyone around me has it wrong. And I wanted to talk about it so that more people can get it right. But then what I'm talking about is eating food. What they're talking about is our need for the right electrolytes. And this is where I think everything goes haywire, Wellness Warrior. And I want to know your thoughts on this before I give you mine. So let me just pause for a second. And hello, Michael, right? Watching from Seoul, Korea. Thank you for watching from Seoul, Korea. Yes. Yeah, I have the same question as Pat. Do you live there? Is it a road trip? What's going on? You're an athlete and was going to purchase this product. Purchase this product in it until I heard about the maltodextrin. Okay, so there's one person that's saying maltodextrin's in it. I'm not using it. Hello, Senpai Ken. As an endurance athlete, we use salt sticks. Okay. Jesus is coming soon. Oh man, I love this stuff, and now I gotta get something else. So okay, we have someone who loves it and worried about it. So, sorry, am I showing them on screen? I wasn't showing them on screen. So Michael Wright, good morning, and here you are. I'm glad to see that my messages are able to be on screen today. So Ronnie Millsap says, yes, was disgusted to see their excuses. They accidentally put 4 milligrams instead of 400 milligrams, and then they hid it in an obscure part of their website. So, and you said also, it's not just carbs, it's maltodextrin. They put it in their product on purpose while advertising for keto and zero sugar in your blood increase. See, Ronnie, that's exactly the part that frustrated me, because I feel there's an element of this being, say it so we can say we said it, but there's mistakes, first of all, that we never correct. So going back to here, they've got all of this real estate, right? The formulation, the science, the recipes. They have all of this real estate where they could, the recipes that they have, right? All of this, sorry, let me just show you. I'm not showing you what I'm showing. They have all of this real estate where they have recipes, they have the science behind their stuff, and they talk about, so over here, the formulation. I don't understand why they show you ingredients. Okay, so here I found it. Why is maltodextrin just not one of the lines? Even if it's a small amount, it could be under stevia leaf extract if it's less than stevia leaf extract. That's the part that confuses me. And Wellness Warrior, I want to say this. I feel like we're in that situation where, especially looking at that ingredient list, let me put it back up for a second. They give us 2 reasons why it would taste good. Natural flavors, right? And stevia leaf extract. And anybody who's ever put stevia leaf extract in, so if you tried stevia, you know that that can be wickedly sweet. Like if you, especially if you bought pure stevia leaf, like stevia leaf, when you put the smallest amount of it, it can be overwhelming. There's a great reason for us to believe that any kind of, so that's part one. Now, what I'm understanding about maltodextrin is that it's not particularly flavorful by itself. But the unfortunate reality is that it does have a high glycemic index. So, someone who has diabetes, so I'm jumping ahead of myself. I just, okay, now I'm going to go there. Let's go there. Someone that has diabetes shouldn't be using this stuff. And I'm going to point something else out to you because I saw this on healthline.com and I think it's relevant here. On healthline.com, they said if you have diabetes or insulin resistance, or if your doctor has recommended a low carbohydrate diet, you shouldn't include any maltodextrin. Or sorry, you should check your maltodextrin and like count it in your carb count. That's what they were advising people on healthline.com. And the reason was that they pointed out that maltodextrin is actually a carbohydrate. So where I feel like I look at LMNT and they're saying no sugar, and then they're using maltodextrin, and I feel like how can we not be frustrated with this? Maltodextrin is a carbohydrate, although it's not a sugar. But this carbohydrate that's not a sugar has a glycemic index like of 110, where sugar has a glycemic index of 63. And pure glucose has a glycemic index of 100. So maltodextrin has a higher glycemic index than pure glucose. Of course, that's going to spike our blood sugar, right? And it's going to have an impact on our insulin. So saying there's no sugar in it because technically there's no sugar doesn't change the fact that this stuff has an impact on our blood sugar, on our insulin. Like it has an impact. So for me, I feel like again I'm in that situation where I watched that video from Dr. Saladino where he was showing us that there was sugar in the salt at McDonald's. And it's like, why? Right? And here we are again where we're putting something in there that nobody knows about, that yes has a high glycemic index, that yes is gonna impact, and it's gonna impact you in all kinds of ways that you are not looking for because you don't think you had anything that could impact your blood sugar readings. Just because the FDA says that maltodextrin is safe doesn't mean that it's not something that should be spoken about if it has such a high glycemic index. Now, when I was watching the young man talk about it, and I'm curious again, guys, what is it that you guys want to, let's see, Marla, it's interesting that it's been known for a long time and I've seen it in comments, but the YouTuber getting paid would disregard it and say, no, there is no maltodextrin. Okay. So I don't know about people saying, like directly saying there's no maltodextrin. One of the things that I will say is that, and I've said this repeatedly, we don't know what we don't know about what's written and not written on labels. But what we do know is that in the history of us having food labels, people have left things off. We do know that in the history of the government and the minuscule attempts the government makes to get people to be honest about what's in their products, people will lie until they get caught. So, what is maltodextrin said to be used for? I'm going to put it like that because I think it's used for other reasons, but Maltodextrin is apparently a thickening agent, so it is used in things like pudding. And I specifically chose pudding. Of course, you can use it to thicken soups and all these other things. Why am I picking pudding? We feed that to our children. It's used to improve the texture of the things we eat. Again, I'm going back to that pudding. Yeah, there's a texture of pudding that's right. It's pleasant that our children love, but it does improve texture of other things. Again, soups and other things that you might want to. I'm assuming protein bars, another place where we see it. So all these things where we want it to have a certain mouth feel. It's a great preservative. So the things can sit on the shelves longer. Again, pudding. They've made this stuff months, at least minimum months ago. And we're feeding it to our children. It's been sitting there. It didn't spoil. Do we understand this is not real food? But anyways, it replaces sugar or fat in low-calorie processed foods. By the way, I want to make sure I say this. I got this information from Medical News Today. They were discussing what is it used for. It replaces sugar and fat in low-calorie processed foods. They pointed out that maltodextrin is an easy-to-digest carbohydrate with no nutritional value. So even though we're constantly told that sugar at least gives us this energy, okay, but it's no nutritional value. medicalnewstoday.com. So we take the sugar and fat, which I know they're talking about animal fat, that's naturally in the product out, and they replace it with maltodextrin because it's going to help with the mouthfeel and it's got a higher glycemic index. Why do you think that they might be doing that? Why would they replace sugar with maltodextrin? Because they get the opportunity to tell us there's no sugar in it. And they get the opportunity for it to have an even higher glycemic index impact on us. Wellness Warrior. We chase it even harder, in my opinion, than we're going to chase sugar because the glycemic index impact is there. I'm frustrated. And unfortunately, there are plenty of companies either outright lying or hiding their ingredient. Yep. But you're right, Pat. We didn't need this. We never need this. This is the thing. We never need this. Can you imagine? So let's look at, this is LMNT, right? And I'm going to, I want to read some of you guys' comments. I want to know, what do you guys think about this? This is why I largely stay away from these keto products. Honestly, Odette, we need to stay away from the keto products. We need to stay away from all the processed foods. I've been saying it for years that processed foods have been the problem from the get-go. Like when I found out that the healthy thin crust pizza that I would choose over the other, unhealthy version, that even that wasn't healthy because of all the carbohydrate in that thin crust, you really start to understand that processed food in all its shapes and forms isn't healthy. And it being lower in calories doesn't mean that it's healthier. They know all the ways to get us to chase Wellness Warrior. They know all the ways, and they do it so sneakily, so quickly, so easily, because they can hide things in natural flavors. And honestly, I think that it should be a law that writing natural flavors should have to have in brackets everything that's there. They're still going to lie because they're just not going to put the maltodextrin in there until someone catches them. But so if it's impossible to put a natural flavor in without a carrier, which is, again, what they're saying, that the grape juice, if you just used grape juice, they can't concentrate that down to be this product. then maybe they shouldn't be making this product flavored. What would have been wrong with just having the natural version, by the way, which, no, is that the right one? Oh, this is in the sparkling water. Is this the natural one? Watermelon flavor. Nope, this is watermelon. Where is the natural flavored one? It is raw unflavored. There it was. Sodium chloride, magnesium malate, potassium chloride. 3 ingredients. Why did we need to go beyond this? This was the original formulation, right? Why did we need to go beyond this? The calorie count is 0. I hope that that's really all that's in there. But if that's really all that's in there, if your goal is to help the world to understand that sugar is a problem, if your goal is to help the world to understand that your body wants these 3 sodium, potassium, magnesium, if that's your goal, then why not make that the thing that's on the product, right? And I'm going to make sure that I go back here, because those 3 things, salt, magnesium, potassium, those 3 things, if that was all that was ever in the product, nobody would be arguing. Now, would they have sold as much? Maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't have sold as much. And this is now the problem, that we prioritize selling more product. We prioritize the company growing. We prioritize these things because the stock market needs to pick it up and we need to make even more money. Is it about helping the world understand that we're making a mistake and then selling the product in its correct form? If you think that's the right balance of these things, then let that be the balance. Honestly, is it the right balance? Okay. For me, I didn't use it because they have citric acid and that stuff causes a lot of problems for you. So, okay, the citric acid was one of your issues, but at least it was on the label and you were able to decide. And I think that's huge, because what about all the people who are diabetic and understood, because maybe they had gone to Healthline or Medical News Today and understood that, oh, as a diabetic, I should avoid maltodextrin. What about all those people that are consuming this product thinking, or insulin resistant even, and thinking, oh, this is safe for me to have because there's no sugar or there's no carbohydrates in it? Well, there's no sugar in it, but there are carbohydrates in it. And we need to understand that it doesn't matter what kind of carbohydrate it is if my body can just turn around and break it back down into glucose and use it, and it's hitting me hard, and now I'm chasing, or now I'm out of ketosis, or now I'm having health problems. What this company, and so I had the 2 views, right? Dr. Boz, who was more on the shame on you, and this young man, I wish I could remember his name, who was more on the side of, maybe I'm going to try to look it up and see if I can see his name, but he was more on the side of, well, it was a small amount, and is it really the biggest deal for people that don't have a problem? And the thing is, how many people, Nick Norwitz, that was his name, how many people do you know that are taking an electrolyte just for the fun? Most people that are taking electrolytes somehow are invested in their health and are trying to manage things, or even they're having cramps, or like they're having issues that they're being told it's because you don't have the right mix of electrolytes. If maltodextrin comes in and now is impacting this balance, because that's another thing that happens, right? Everything that we bring in is going to impact the balance of our micronutrients, macronutrients. Like, everything has an impact. Nothing comes in for free, Wellness Warrior. Rachel German says, Maltodextrin has a higher glycemic index. Yep, 110. It has stalled my weight loss before until I realized that it was in my bouillon. Okay, I wouldn't eat it. They should have put it on the ingredients. Exactly. The problem, Rachel, is that there's so many places that have maltodextrin. So many things we consume have maltodextrin in them. And we just don't even understand that it's there. So going back to the element, the part that's frustrating to me is, what if you're the kind of person who might have more than one packet per day? Like, so what I find interesting too is I remember watching Dr. Barry's wife, Nisha, and she was talking about having half a pack in her coffee. I believe it was her coffee. And she was using the chocolate one. So half a pack. Now we're talking maybe 200 milligrams of maltodextrin. Again, it, right? So 2 milligrams. Yeah, 200 milligrams. Is it going to impact her? Could it kick her out of ketosis? Might it have been a problem? So, I mean, I don't know. See, this is the thing, is that for each one of us, if we got kicked out of, so let's say I used it and I got kicked out of ketosis, that's the last thing I'm going to look at. And for every one of us, we need to understand that if we have weight to lose, we're insulin resistant. If we are still struggling with our blood pressure, or, right, like if we still have like internal cleanup that's trying to be, we're insulin resistant. My body's still cleaning up. I know that if I do eat something that pushes me to have too much carb in my, the inflammation is back in a second. I still have cleanup to do. So my inflammation problems are still there. And my insulin resistance, I'm very certain, is still somewhat there. So I'm so strict, and I shouldn't have to call it strict. I eat properly every day. It's not strict. I eat properly every day because it's the right thing for me to do for my body, because that's what my body wants from me. So can you imagine people that maybe are having 2 of these per day? I know some people that they don't drink a glass of water. They drink a big container, like a liter or of water in a day that they're drinking. Again, things we've been told that stick with us from our history. And if I'm flavoring that with 1 or 2 or even 3 packs of this stuff, because I think this is to flavor a glass, an 8-ounce glass, and you've got how many ounces there? Yes, it's possible that people were getting in more of this maltodextrin than they were even understanding, even more than the company is thinking they're going to get if you have 1 per day. Please do not assume that people eat a serving per day. Our history with food shows that we often eat more than 1 serving per day. And companies making the assumption that they don't have to tell us something because it's such a small amount. That was what bothered me about what Nick was saying. Oh, but it's such a small amount. You don't get to decide what's a small amount for me. And honestly, half a gram of maltodextrin with a 110 glycemic index to me is not a small amount, because 1 gram of sugar to me is too much if I don't need to have it. So stop trying to decide for other people. And just to show you that I'm also being fair here, it's not to say that I don't eat things that do have carbohydrates in them. I just know that they're there. There's 0.6 grams of carbs in an egg. And when I have eggs, I have between 4 and 10. So if I have 10 eggs, then I know that I just had 6 grams, right? 4 times, 0.6 of carbohydrate. And I would still eat those 10 eggs. But I know my upper limit is of carbohydrate for my day. I never would intentionally pass 10 grams of carbs in a day. So if I have 10 eggs, you know that there's nothing, there's no, There's no cheese going to be part of that meal. I'm having 10 eggs. I've already gotten to my quota here. Please do not try to decide for me how much sugar is too much. And this is where I get frustrated, because we trust companies. Especially we trust companies that have shown that they have the same concerns that we have. That's the point of that video on their website. Hey, I was an athlete. I wasn't doing well because too much sugar, not enough salt. I didn't understand. That's the point of that video. And each of the founders add their perspective and their what did they figure out to compel us to believe that they wouldn't harm us. And then we turn around and find out that there's maltodextrin that they know about. We find out that they made a mistake. Okay, anybody can make a mistake. Have I missaid numbers? Yes, I have. Have I called a fat a carb? Yes, I have. I've mixed up my words and I've like read the chemical version of something and confused it for something. I've done that. But then I will correct myself. They currently have a website, a blog, and I'm sure that they make videos. I haven't checked that, but I'm Element. If they don't make videos, I'd be surprised if they don't have a YouTube channel as well. Any one of these places, they could have publicly, emphatically corrected it. And the most important place to correct it on the packaging. Label it maltodextrin. Why are these things not what's happening? So you bought it to try and you haven't reordered it. I think that it's okay. Senpai Ken, natural and organic confuse me. I don't know what they mean. Senpai Ken, can I point something out to you? When they say this is natural, this is organic, we need to understand that everything on this planet is natural and organic. And just because we know how to, manipulate things and make a pen or manipulate a food substance and make a powder out of it doesn't mean that it isn't natural to be on this planet. We take chemicals, manipulate an apple or a piece of meat and turning it into a powder. Mother Nature uses fire to turn that apple or that piece of meat into a powder, right? High extreme heat, a volcanic bubbling will take that same apple or piece of meat and turn it into a powder. So it's not because we found fancy ways to turn these things into a powder that means that the way that Mother Nature did isn't like, so everything on this planet can technically be called natural and organic, right? Now, we say it's synthetic if we've introduced chemical da-da-das to get it there. Okay, so if you look at how they make maltodextrin, let's talk about that, because I thought that was interesting. Maltodextrin was, when I did that search, I was like, oh, that's interesting. The process of making it involves cooking the starch and then adding acids. So that would be them saying it's possibly could say it's synthetic, right? But then acids are natural. So which way will they go on that? But they can or easily add enzymes. Again, those are natural. So are they going to call this synthetic or are they going to call it natural? Well, apparently they decided to call it natural because they say that these are all natural ingredients. Right? But if anybody can just you don't even have to put how to make maltodextrin, and then and Google tells you this is how it's made. We trust companies way more than we should. We trust companies beyond what they've proven to us they should be trusted. This company was created in 2018, interestingly, a few months after I started my keto journey. I started in April. They started in October. Now, when I started my keto journey, what was hot at the time, or was getting hot, it wasn't hot yet, but it was getting hot, was keto, right? Like that's why I was able to even find it as easily as I found it When I talk to people who've been doing keto much longer, they had to search much harder to find the solution of how do you eat less sugar if sugar is causing my problem. It didn't take me long because keto was already a topic. Low carb was already a topic. So, like, this was a topic. Was this a smart play for the market, or was it truly that from their heart they wanted to save people? Honestly, if they wanted to save people, they still can be very helpful by just being transparent. Because I'll tell you that every electrolyte company puts different amounts of, first of all, filler ingredients that they're going to tell you are flavor carriers. They're going to tell you that, well, if we need to put it there so that there's something in the package. They're going to tell you all kinds of reasons why these things need to be there. But what I find the most fascinating is that the thing that we are looking for, the sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, iron, whatever, the list goes on and on, that we're looking for, how much is in it? Every company, it's different. I've not found two companies where the profile is the same. If we need a certain amount of something, something every day, whether it's magnesium or potassium or sodium, if we need a certain amount of that every single day, why are the companies' amounts so dramatically different? This is the part that I don't understand, Wellness Warrior. So Michael Wright is saying maltodextrin ranges from 85 to 105. You're talking about the glycemic index. I've actually seen it, Michael, where they said it was higher than that. I've seen, so 110 seems to be the average that they give you when you just look it up on, and when it's written in articles, that's the average. But I've seen, again, I did the same thing. If we look at the glycemic index, I mean, honestly, I'm just searching things, Wellness Warrior. And when you do the search, it shows you somehow, like I saw that there was a range from 130, so from 85 to like 130 something. I can't find it right now. But it's crazy, Michael, how much of a how high it is on the glycemic index. So now I'm wondering if diet soda has maltodextrin in the natural flavor. I would not be surprised. Natural flavor is in a lot of things. And I think, and according to what I saw when I was reading about like the different places it's used, I mean, it gives mouthfeel. So anything that could benefit from mouthfeel, even crackers, even like all these things, anything that can benefit can possibly have it in it. Now, I want to point something else out to you guys because I think this is actually rather interesting as well. When talking about how between different companies, the calcium, the magnesium, like the amount on the packaging is not stable and standardized. If they're saying this is what we need, you would expect that. But here's the flip side of the coin. Why do you not see that? Well, the micronutrient profile of chicken and beef and pork and fish and lamb and eggs, and they're different, right? They're all different. It's based on what the animal eats, first of all, and then how the animal processes what the animal eats, then what the profile is in that animal's body, and we'll add to it, was the animal raised in an ideal environment, or are they on farms where we are just, because you know how we can be. And so, are they on farms? If so, the negative that's happening from that. The truth is, we would be getting, depending on what meat we're eating, different ratios of magnesium, potassium, right? Like we would be getting different ratios. But I do think, although they would be closer to each other from what I've understood, they're still different. And the other thing that's really important for us to understand is that there's different. So in that long list of micronutrients that we're going to get out of an actual animal or fish or, animal protein, basically is what I'm talking about. In that long list, yes, there's going to be variation, but the variation is not so wide that if we eat one kind of animal, we're not going to be okay. Which you see that all the people that eat beef, muscle, and that's all they are claiming to be eating. I'm not with them all day, but that's what they're saying they're doing. Beef, muscle, that's what they eat. And they are doing miles better. And if you're talking about a sprint, they're miles ahead than the people that are eating standard diet. Now you have the other people that are eating all the kinds of meat, right? And they're eating fish, and they're eating poultry, and they're eating eggs. So they're eating all the different kinds of meats and whatever. And they're also doing well. Miles ahead of people that are doing standard American diet. So what we know is that we do need these micronutrients, and they are present in our food. And as Georgia Ede pointed out, they are in our food when we eat real meat. That's what she was referring to, in the right amounts. In the right amounts. When we start messing with stuff, when we start concentrating down flavors, when we start infusing flavors into things and we need carriers, this is where we're messing ourselves up, Wellness Warrior. I really had to go and buy a 30-day supply of chocolate flavored element to aid in fasting. Sad, I have to get rid of it, but it's good to know the truth. Yeah, you know what? So you bought it to aid in fasting, but it's good to know that maybe while I'm taking that, and I'm getting some energy in, it's impacting my fast. And especially if you are still insulin resistant, it could be impacting your fast more. So how much of it are you drinking? Again, are you doing the big, because now you're not eating anything. So are you doing like just water bottle after water bottle, putting it in, right? Is that what you're doing? Because if that's what you're doing, are you even still in ketosis? Some people are that sensitive. Like we think that you can only get kicked out if you have you're 5 or 10 or 15 grams over. But can I point out one of the things I learned from watching Michaela Peterson's videos when she was talking about her health journey? How absolutely little it would take of anything to mess with her. And we don't understand because we're so used to feeling horrible 24/7 anyway. We don't get it. That these small little things that we're doing are keeping us feeling horrible. The micronutrients that are available in our meats, they're not the different meats. Yes, they're different amounts, but I don't believe that they're so wildly different that, for example, when you drink LMNT, the overwhelming flavor is sweet, salty. And then when you drink, like, for example, some of these other, oh my gosh, what's the other one called that I didn't like either, but there's so many. You drink these other ones and the overwhelming flavor is sweet. What's the difference? Like, so these, and if you take multivitamins, sometimes I remember taking multivitamins back when I was doing standard diet. The delicious chewability and flavorability that was in there had to be how much sugary, flavory things in there. We don't realize how they're just selling us a different way to get us to chase other things. So I wonder about the sparkling water I've been drinking and its natural flavor. Since I saw Dr. Boz's video, I just went on plain mineral water. Now Pat and I have been doing plain water for the longest while, or carbonated, like plain carbonated water. One of the things that I love carbonated water now to the point where I carbonate my own at home, and not like SodaStream carbonation. I carbonate it like so that it's bubbly. And I like the flavor. So far, so good. I don't feel any negative repercussions from having that much carbonation in my water. But I do feel like, honestly, at some point, we need to just allow ourselves to like the taste of water. And, like every morning when I drink my iodine water. I also just have a glass of water to like wash it down. But like, it's just, you need to let yourself just drink water, normal, natural water. Eat real food, right? Meat, fish, poultry, eggs. I feel like this is how they end up, they keep getting us because we do better on whole foods. This, this I know for a fact. All of my weight loss on keto, I credit to the real food I was eating and the fact that I took the carbohydrates down to a number where I wasn't constantly assaulting my body. That's real food. That's the power of real food. I stopped eating pretend food, right? And although I'll be honest, during that, for like while I was losing weight, I was still doing replacement recipes. So I was doing like the noodles. But the good thing about me is that in that 5 months, I didn't, just because we live in Canada, I didn't have access to any of the fancy things that you guys have here in the US. So the keto bars and keto shakes and keto, all the keto. So everything that I was going to do, I had to make it myself, right? Still processed because almond flour is, that's not the way almonds come from, from nature. So it's definitely at least ground up. What else was in there to stop it from sticking to itself? See, these are the things, right? What was in there to stop it from sticking to itself? I learned that they put cornstarch and stuff. I learned that they put sawdust and stuff, which was like really just annoying. What else was in this? And by the way, they put sawdust and stuff. Food. So FDA, apparently, there's a certain percentage of sawdust that, oh, that's okay. Again, wellness warrior. Do you want to know that there's sawdust in your food? Would you want that to be on the label? Because according to the FDA, a small amount of sawdust, that's okay. Who's defining the small amount? Where would it fall on the label if they had to put it on the label? Could it be at the very end or is it somewhere higher up? Because they have to do that by the amount that's in there, right? I believe that we let food companies get away with monitoring themselves way too much. There should be a whole other structure that tests the ingredients, that spot checks the company's facilities and verifies that what they're putting in our products is what they're putting in our products. We're too trusting. And because we're so trusting, and because no one's checking on them, and because they, especially supplement companies, because it's not a medication, so they don't have to go through all the hoops and jumps that a medication would have to go through. They get to tell us that things are in there or not in there, right? So the plain unflavored is perfect. It might be perfect if that's really all that's in there. See, this is part of my problem too, is now that I know that they knew that people would want to know about the maltodextrin and they didn't write it on the label, it makes me wonder if there could be some in the unflavored as well. Because remember, it doesn't taste like anything, according to what I understood from medical news today, right? Medical health today, whatever that the other, hold on, what was it called? Medical, they, according to them, it doesn't taste like anything. So if it doesn't, medical news today, yeah, it doesn't taste like anything. So if it really doesn't taste like anything, then you're gonna think, oh well, it doesn't taste sweet, but it wouldn't have, even though it's impacting your sugar levels in your, so because it's a carbohydrate and it's gonna be broken down into carbohydrates in the body. Protein and fat is what we need. Protein and fat is what we need, right? Yes, Odette, exactly. Exactly that. And there's a lot of sodium. Again, how much sodium do we need There's 1,000 milligrams. I mean, there's a lot of sodium there, but I don't believe that we've gotten to the max of what we need per day, if I remember correctly, from some videos that I saw from Dr. Berry. So I think we actually, with the food that we're going to eat and everything else, if you're eating food, right? So, like if you're not using it to fast, like the other person said. Um, Tammy, at my age now, I don't trust anything that I have to open from a store. I ask myself all the time now that if my grandmother didn't have it in her pantry, I'm not going to eat it anymore. I love that idea. If I were my grandmother, I remember, so I was an adult the first time my grandmother ate a piece of pizza. And well, if I'd known what I know now, then I would have made her some real food. But there was a party, and pizza was what was was on the menu. That was the first time. I don't even know, probably the only time that my grandmother ate pizza, and she couldn't understand why there was no top on the sandwich. Like, was she making a joke? Was she being serious? I don't know, but I laughed. But if I would only eat like my grandmother, at the minimum, I wouldn't be eating packaged foods. And I wouldn't be going to restaurants all the time. That was not a thing that my grandmother did. Yeah, water, pink salt, and a tiny pinch of lime, probably the same at the fraction of the cost. And Pat, can I just point out where is the flavor carrier in what you just said? This is the part that bothers me because if you would just put natural ingredients together, so sell us the salt. Um, what is it again? I forgot. Sell us the salt, magnesium, and potassium. Yeah, sure, sell us that. But why do you need to sell us the other stuff? You have that recipe page. Just keep working on that recipe page and sell us the base that you figured out and make sure it's clean. And how many people would go back and just get new recipes? And especially if you're innovating on your recipes and keeping them, though, try to keep them as healthy as possible. Like, I definitely feel that there was a better way to do this. We need to get away from our need to have some foods flavored. I drink plain water, seltzer water, black tea, unsweetened tea, no need for flavored products. I agree with you, Odette. I feel like more and more that we uncover the ingredients that they're not telling us, we should be really focused on eating for health. And I mean, that's just a cornerstone of what I believe. Eat for health, right? Get your fun when you go out with friends. Get your fun by doing activities. Get your fun by adding some kind of um, like activity to your or even hobby or something. Stop entertaining yourself with food. If you do that, if you put food down as entertainment and see it, I'm not saying your food shouldn't taste good. So don't get me wrong here. Your food should taste good. What I'm saying is if you eat real food and allow yourself that's what you're going to do. You're going to eat real food. Then what you're going to see is you feel great and then you can go for bike rides or long walks or climbing like I like to do or longboarding like I like to do or goes back to skiing and snowboarding. I love those things. Like if you eat real food and your body feels great, then you get to do the activities that you actually enjoy. And that's amazing. You're very welcome, Carla Walker. I'm so happy that I could give you this information. Can't just blame the companies. It's the consumer that wants this stuff. We want to have our favorite flavors and have them with less calories. And how many of us use the chocolate element because it's like hot chocolate? Thank you for sharing that, Marla, because yes, it's reality. We, as Odette was saying, we need to learn not to play with our food. And we need to accept that the things that companies did to trick us into overeating, if we just keep doing them, we could get pulled back into overeating. And that's not what any of us wants. Let's see. The patriotic girl. I don't want any maltodextrin in my body. They lost my trust. I hear you. Regulatory agencies like the FDA are partly to blame. Ingredients like this should be banned or mandated to be revealed on the labeling. I can agree with that one. It's amazing to me that the FDA, knowing that this has a glycemic index of like 110 from what I found, doesn't mandate that it be on the label, because as Healthline and Medical News Today both pointed out, if you have diabetes or insulin resistance, this is a bad time for you if you're ingesting maltodextrin. So, I mean, it would be better for them to just put the stupid sugar in at that point. So it's not making sense to me. Um, Hello, Melissa, Missy. I can't afford Element. I make my own flavored Ketorade using light salt, potassium chloride, and original true lemon. Okay, lime or true orange packets. These are crystallized citrus and citrus. I guess my question for you and for everyone is, like, if we're doing it to get the salt, so that, well, let's see, like, what did you put in there? Salt. Yeah, but like, I'm only seeing so yeah, sometimes maybe we need salt, and maybe we need like magnesium and potassium. Like, I know people get cramps, and sometimes we have issues with bowel movements, which I believe is magnesium. So, however, I also know that a lot of people solve their issues with bowel movements by increasing the amount of fat in their diet. So, for me, the first question I always want to ask is, A, are you salting your food enough? And for some of us, if we are really deficient in the salt, we are not going to be able to salt our food enough for it to like compensate for all of that. So I would get that. But if your food could have some more salt on it, and you're keeping your salt intake from old habits low on your foods, but then putting it in your drinks, it might be worth it to you to switch that around, first of all. But, and this is the other but, like, even myself, back when I was having cramps and trying to manage my salt intake, I wasn't forcing extra water to manage my salt intake. I would sincerely just like get I would say like a little palm full of salt, pop it in my mouth, and take a gulp of water, and that was it. Like, I feel like the other thing that we might be doing that we don't realize is that we're adding so much water that we end up diluting what we're trying to accomplish anyway. Everything that comes in matters, right? If I'm drinking a bunch of water, yeah, I'm adding water to my system. And so, is it true that I'm not eating enough sodium, potassium, magnesium, and the things? Or am I just drinking so much water that I'm diluting, right? And of course, the water that I'm drinking has stuff in it. We have to keep in mind, nothing is pure. Nothing. So there's micro whatevers in there that are going to impact the balance and the level and the whatever. A lot of people live in places where there's fluoride added to their water, chloride added to their water. All these things are going to have an impact, wellness warrior. And even if we're trusting a company that we're filtering the water, are we filtering all the things? If we're trusting a company that's bottling the water, are they just taking it from the stream next door? So, again, I want us to think about, there are multiple different places where our electrolytes can get out of balance that has nothing to do with drinking an electrolyte solution, which is part of the reason that I stopped. So I tried one company, it was too sweet, didn't like that. And I've had Element once. I'm still trying to remember why I ended up with it. I think someone gave it to me. I'm trying to remember who. But the problem that I see, and what I noticed for myself, let's just put it like that, is that by not over drinking, I solved my problem. And it's interesting to me because what I saw, that having a glass of water in the evening with my supper. So like I'm getting the salt that I need in the on the meal, and being conscious of how much I drink during the day. So caffeine, which is a diuretic, right? So if I'm having a coffee, having some water, but if I don't have coffee, then I don't need to have the water. I feel like that made a bigger difference in, like, I don't have cramping anywhere near as much as I was having it before. And it was happening all throughout the day. If I do have a cramp now, 90% of the time, I would say it happens in the morning. As a matter of fact, the funny thing is I'm sitting on a chair with like, those little circles around, and I'm in my bare feet and I'm on my toes. So, and normally in this kind of a position, I would have gotten a cramp. And I sit on this chair every week doing these videos, and I sit sometimes during meetings and etc. No cramps. So I feel like part of this is us putting down some of the lies that we learned from the food companies, where they're telling us we need this much water and this much sugar, this much fat and this much sugar, and they're just confusing us and getting us to do a bunch of behaviors that end result is we are not at our healthiest weight. So, like, the truth of the matter is the solution to this element thing is that we should be eating real food. We should be just understanding that all processed food, anything's, whether it's a supplement, whether all processed things you put in your mouth are a trap, right? They're a trap, because even if they put every single solitary A to Z, what's in this on the label, they could label it in a way that we don't know what any of the things are, because they can use the chemical name. They can label in a way that makes it look so innocent and when it's really not innocent, right? Like real fruit juice concentrate. That's the sugar out of the fruits. That's sugar, but they call it real fruit juice concentrate. It's sugar. All sugar is made from plants. All of it. There's no kind of sugar that doesn't come from a plant. But they call it real fruit juice concentrate. Yeah, that's sugar. So they'll just find a word on that label where they would have said, "Oh yeah, it's real fruit juice concentrate," and they're talking about sugar. They could have done the same thing, right? That's why it tastes so good. It's real fruit juice. We need to understand that companies are there to make money, and they're going to make money. Whether we want them to focus on making money or not, they have to, because otherwise it's not viable. The same way that I'm trying to find a way to do this and make it viable for me, right? But it's not a lie. I'm not lying about it. Like, I have a group that I run, and I'm going to be starting a new group actually that's going to be more of this kind of thing, right? But it's companies need to make money. People need to make money. We need to keep our homes running, and we need to feed our families. But are they ever going to be just honest? That's the thing. Can they just be honest? Because if they were honest, most people would have just taken a decision. Oh, maltodextrin? No, I don't want that. Oh, maltodextrin? What is that? Look it up. Mm, half a gram? Oh, I don't think that's going to be too bad for me. People would have made a decision. That's what they would have done. The way that this was done, they took the decision making process away from people, and now everyone's upset. And rightfully so. Why wouldn't I be upset when you're trying to decide for me that half a gram, zero point 0.4 of a gram, whatever it was, even if it was 0.2 grams, so 20% of a gram, when you're trying to tell me that that's not too much for me, you don't get to tell me that. I'm the only one that gets to decide that. So, Wellness Warrior, I want you to pay attention to that part of the story. I want you to be vocal. If you don't agree with this, stop buying it, right? Stop buying it. And if you're fine with it, then you're fine with it. But they still should have told us about it. And this is where I am in the story, because half a gram. Oh, by the way, half a gram at a glycemic index of 110, though, Could that act in my body like a real gram? Because it's double the amount of the glycemic index of sugar, of table sugar. So could that act in my body like a real gram? And that's where, even though it's half a gram, should I be treating it like a gram, especially if I'm diabetic, especially since I have insulin resistance, especially since I have inflammation in my body? Should I be treating that like a gram of sugar? And since doing keto, 1 gram of sugar is 5%. Do you see where it starts to matter more? Can we see where it starts to matter more? And this is the bigger conversation that I want us to have with ourselves. Because if we don't let ourselves see that, we're going to think that, oh, it's just half a gram. Half a gram at a glycemic index of 110. I would treat that as a gram. So now every time I hear 1 gram, I'd be thinking 2 grams. That's how I would treat that, because it's twice as strong, or the glycemic index is twice that of table sugar. But that's the way that I would look at it, because my goal is health first. I don't care as much about the taste as I care about health first. And if that's going to cause me to get kicked out of ketosis, if that's going to cause my inflammation to flare up, if that's going to cause me to have some kind of brain fog thing that I'm not going to understand because I might not relate it back to this, if that's going to cause whatever the thing in my body that happens to happen when I get too much sugar load in my blood, because that's what's happening, is getting broken down into glucose in the body. When that gets broken down into glucose in the body and my body starts reacting, am I going to care that the FDA or that Nick said that it's not that bad, it's not that much, it's just a little bit? You should go watch Nick's video too, because I feel like there's hints as to why he said that, but I'm not going to guess at it. You watch it for yourself. I'm surprised he said that, because I didn't believe that he felt that companies should be hiding anything from us. And I didn't believe that he felt like companies. So, I mean, I do want them to be transparent. I do want them to apologize. I don't think they're going away, right? The website's still up. I was able to show it to you today. So I don't think they're going away. But I do think that every one of us should be annoyed, upset, frustrated that they said there was very little, right? It's a negligible amount. That's their reasoning. If that's their reasoning. Again, I watched 2 videos. Manipulate is a good word. It's absolute manipulation. It is a great word. Maybe when they started it, it was not an ingredient, but had to add it for mass production. But they knew this is a product marketed to and used primarily people who are concerned about their health. Odette, I do go there with you. I think probably that original formulation, first of all, I think the original formulation that they made, there's no way that it had maltodextrin in it. I can't say there's no way, but there was likely no maltodextrin in it unless they were working in a chemical lab. So that's the first place I would say. Like, again, he said he was an athlete. They were athletes. They're trying to improve their health. They learned this stuff, right? So, like, to me, I feel like, yeah, they probably, and if they show vials of the original, it's like little, contain, like, that doesn't look like a chemistry experiment. It looks like something people did at home, but I don't know that for sure. But once it started to be added, knowing what and especially that lady, Nikki Violetti, saying that there's too much sugar in the world and she wants there to be less of it and we need to fight that. So if that's your true belief, how are you putting maltodextrin, which breaks down into glucose, in our bodies, and you know it? How are you putting maltodextrin in the food that you're selling to people that as you're fighting against too much sugar? It doesn't make sense, Wellness Warrior. Missy, Nisha, using the chocolate packets could be subbed with sweet leaf, chocolate flavored, pure stevia drops, and some light salt. No maltodextrin added. Sweet leaf makes several flavored drops. So, I mean, again, we're just trusting sweet leaf, right? Like, this is part of I remember seeing a stevia product in my grocery store. And when I picked it up and started reading the ingredients, there was dextrose in it. And I was just like, wow. And it was like high in the ingredient list too. It wasn't low. So, and then I've also seen stevia mixed with other things. But yeah, like if you just keep going down the list, you see it was further. The other one, it was much further down. That there was another ose. I can't remember what that one was. It wasn't dextrose still that time. But we trust companies way too much. Robert Preston Sr., hello. Even Walmart offers electrolytes in the Kool-Aid section. Yeah, I mean, and those electrolytes though typically don't hide that there's sweeteners and sugars and flavors and whatever. So let's see, Nicole Pan. I'm not going to say your last name, but hello, Nicole. Nick Norwitz's doctor and carnivore maybe just watched his video and LMNT responded to him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, if you want to know what LMNT said, go watch the video. I find it very interesting that prior to reading LMNT's response, Nick said something that kind of mirrored their response. And it felt like it was priming us to accept their answer. But yeah, you go watch the video. I'm leaning more and more to just fatty hamburger as a main staple. I think that ground anything is a great, like ground meat is a great choice because first of all, it's versatile. And you can eat it loose. You can make it into a burger. You can blend it a bit more and use it to just make shaped things that if you want to, there's like, some use it as a bread options that are available. And it's just all meat. So like if you want to have an egg sandwich is what I'm talking about. So I do feel there's lots of possibilities with ground meats in general. Chicken is more versatile in terms of like using it for other purposes like bread. And but I feel like it's just amazing to me that we have, well, first of all, our imagination and the ability to cook things and come up with all these ideas that then cause people to be so focused on their meals. When something as simple as fatty hamburger, fatty ground pork, or fatty any kind of fatty meat but also just straight up frying a piece of beef or a piece of chicken or boiling it, even if you're gonna consume the liquid and make a soup of some kind. We have so many options that are healthy for us, and yet somehow we keep looking towards companies to make bars and powders and things that we have to trust them with, right? It's bad enough that companies will tenderize our meat for us, knowing that it's making more spaces for bacteria to grow and just makes people sick if they don't cook it properly. And especially when you're talking about steak and stuff like that, like the whole point is to not cook it all the way through. So those extra little divots are creating problems. But they'll do it, and people get sick, and right, and they don't know why. And then of course they're going to blame the fat on their meat. Some diet. Hello, Michael. Oh, okay. You're answering to Marla. Thank you. Some diet and low calorie beverages use small amounts of maltodextrin. Oh, so thanks for making sure we knew that. Bulking agents or to enhance texture. Yeah. I believe a normally functioning body does not need an electrolyte supplement. Our bodies keep that electrolyte balance all on its own without our help unless there's a physiological problem. Odette, exactly. Right? If we stop overloading ourselves with water or drinking excessive coffee, which helps us to eliminate the water, if we start doing those two things and ping-ponging back and forth, which is what a lot of us do, if we stop doing that, our body knows what to do. It knows how much sodium it needs for the potassium. It knows how much calcium it needs. It knows how much magnesium. It knows all of that. And just to go back to the sodium and like the comment that there's a lot of sodium, Every single cell in our body has this thing called a sodium potassium pump. Every single cell, from my fingers to my heart to my brain, all have sodium potassium pumps. And not just one of them, like a lot of them. So we need sodium and we need potassium. It's kind of funny to me how we've been led down this path of salt is bad for us, but sugar's okay. There's no sugar pump, although sugar does make up the outside of our cells and it's a communication thing, but that's why our body makes it, right? Our body makes it because it's a structural component to like our cells, right? And our hormone and all the signaling stuff and right. So like sugar is used in the body. So we do need it, but at the same time our body makes all that we need. The same way that we don't like our body makes ourselves. It's just crazy to me. It's crazy to me that we should be giving our body meat, fish, poultry, eggs to get the amino acids that it needs. But instead, we have been living in this world that's convinced us that we can give our body a bunch of carbohydrate with some well guarded amino acids and micronutrients because those plants are guarding that stuff. It's for them. And somehow we're supposed to be okay eating that stuff. And then you have this kind of thing happen where companies they just know we want to have fun with food. That's the problem. We can get electrolytes on the seasoning aisle with salt, like light salt. Okay, no salt. Okay, why buy it? Kool-Aid. I don't think I feel like I do know that in that section they have also electrolytes there. I think they put products in places where they think people will buy it. And so the electrolytes are in more than one place in most places in most grocery stores. Let's see. I'm really on board with Odette. Cool. Okay, so Marla sounded like they were admitting to their mistakes, but personally, well, they had to say something. So what I wonder about this again comes back to they've got a website, they've got a blog, and very likely they have a YouTube channel. I haven't checked yet, but do they have a YouTube channel? I can't imagine that they wouldn't have a YouTube channel. Let's check. Do they have a YouTube channel? Because if they have a YouTube channel, there's so many places that they absolutely could have put this information. Yeah. Well, okay. Is this their YouTube channel? Element, next level speech. Nope. Nope. Looking for. Oh, there we go. Drink Element. 4,500, 4,059,000, 4.59 thousand subscribers. So Drink Element, I believe that is their actual YouTube channel. So they have a YouTube channel. There was somewhere that they could have absolutely gone and blasted this out to everybody to make everyone understand that, hey, this mistake happened. They could have done that way back when they wrote zero point 0.4 grams instead of writing 400 gram or milligrams or whatever it was that whatever the mistake when they put 0.04 grams or zero point 0.4 milligrams or whatever the mistake was. Back then they could have corrected and gone to their YouTube channel. And I'm scared to I want to show you guys, but I'm not sure if I can I? No. Okay. Oh yeah, I can. Let's do this on the fly. Can I do it? Let me present the so share my screen. Share screen. YouTube. Okay. So like I'm kind of curious now. If this so can I where is it? Oh, add it to stage. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if that's really their channel, let's go there and pause that. If this is really their channel, videos, like they have all of, did they make a video? Okay, 7 months ago. So they don't make videos all the time. But seven months ago, they made a video, and we created Element to provide the best electrolyte. I mean, it looks like it's their channel. It's sending you to their dot. Yeah. So I mean, is that? You guys will have to tell me. Are those really their Twitter handles and everything? But if this is really their channel, um, then they could have put something up here, right? So that's where I get confused, Wellness Warrior. Whoops. that I don't understand why they wouldn't have just spoken about it there. And it would have been the easy solution, the easy fix. You just let people know, hey, made a mistake. This is what it is. Moving forward, this is what it is. And if it changes again, we'll let you know. And it would have been great. That's what I taught. This is what I was taught in biology class years ago. Oh, did I miss something? I think I did read that. Balance on its own. Yeah. Okay, so I wonder why I struggle with cramps in several muscles. I had to use potassium supplement, extra salt. I honestly think, Marla, that sometimes we're suffering because we're over drinking, and putting ourselves out of balance. I also honestly think that sometimes we're suffering because we're spicing our meats. Again, everything that comes in needs to be accounted for. We're not necessarily looking at the spice mixtures that we're putting in our foods as contributing to those micronutrients, even though most of us know that that's kind of why we would be eating plants. But then we turn around and we concentrate, because that's what spices are. They're concentrated of these elements. And also, what I understood from Dr. Chafee is that they're the harshest of those elements. So we concentrate down the parts that they're spicy, like make our mouth, that parts that make our mouth react more. And some of them, although they taste good, we need to understand that the reason the plant has them is not because they taste good. A lot of the time is to deter animals and bugs from eating them. So I think that sometimes that's playing a role, that we're still using lots of spices. I can tell you that taking the spices out of my diet was like one of the hugest aha moments for me. First of all, to realize that I actually like the taste of real food. I still put salt on my food, because we need salt, right? But I honestly feel like I probably could get used to eating food without salt, because it tastes good now. And it's like funny because I say that. Could I have eaten saltless meat like 5 years ago? I doubt it. I think I would have found it like just unpleasant to eat. I don't think that this happened because it didn't just happen. It happened because I gave my mouth time to get used to eating real food. And honestly, I know that I did it slowly over time. This was not a fast process. I started off removing like the high carb foods, and I got to a place where I was still using spices though, but I was eating only olives and avocado. So I feel like our body adjusting first of all and getting to a place where it feels good, super important. I will also add here though that when I took the spices out, it did it like it's after that my cramping is dramatically less. So I do believe that there's something happening there. What exactly, I don't know. I'm not willing to put spices back to figure that out. So, but I do think there's something happening there. When we eat food with spice on it, our body, I do believe the micronutrient balance is being shifted. And even if it's not huge, so it's not enough for us to get kicked out of ketosis. It's not enough for us to maybe have a huge insulin reaction or a huge, inflammation reaction. It might not be that much of a difference, but it might be enough of a difference for us to feel like, something is just not right. And we get cramps or even a gout flare up or right something. And I think that we need to be paying a bit more attention to how we feel. That's where I would go with that one. My biggest issue is Celsius e-drinks when you're super tired. Yeah, I feel like getting enough sleep is always the answer. Oh, and movement. So, although exercise is not going to help us to lose weight, especially if we're eating wrong, it does help us to be stronger. It does help us to have energy. It does help us to rebuild better. It like it's good for our mental health. Like using your body every single day and in multiple different ways, very, very good for you just in general. On keto, I got my first and only keto stone. Um, okay. I blame taking too many unknown supplements, as in not really needed and more harmful. One thing that I will help or maybe share, I'll share here, is that when we come from a standard diet to a keto diet and we do it swiftly, we risk stones, especially if we were doing low fat. So, what I learned is that your body is making the bile. And so, like those stones that so the kidney stones, yeah, your body's making the bile whether or not you eat fat because your body's expecting you to eat fat. And then if it doesn't get the fat, well, the bile gets concentrated. So what I learned is that the reason many people, not most people, but many people will experience stones when they try keto, or the other time they'll have it is when for a splurge, maybe on their birthday or some kind of like, right, I'm gonna have fun with food. They'll go to a restaurant and eat something greasy for the first time after how long of eating just lean food. Those scenarios cause our body now to try to use the bile, so it's trying to squirt it out, and you're contracting all these stones that were created while it was concentrating down the bile. So that was my understanding, and what was explained of why people. I can't remember which doctor explained it to me. um I don't even think looking at my list is going to help me with this one because it was a long time ago. Yeah, I can't remember which doctor explained it in a video to me, but yeah, it's normal that your body's going to now try to squeeze out some bile and you're going to feel pain and realize, oh wow, there's stones in there. Now, the what I don't know and what the doctor didn't talk about is whether or not your body could turn those stones back into a liquid, like if you were using it, but it doesn't seem like it. Although procedures that we have to kind of like like radio waves and like break them apart and let them come out slowly, again, seem to be painful, and most people end up like not wanting to do that. And especially when the bigger pieces come out, it hurts a lot. So yeah, but do I think supplements could have played a role? I'm not saying they couldn't play a role, but probably the eating of the extra fat highlighted something that might have already been there brewing. Because the other thing too is that these stones take, apparently, according to the doctor that I was listening to, take years to make. So that transition to keto, just according to them, wouldn't be long enough, or it wouldn't happen that fast. Basically, if it was keto, he basically saying it wouldn't have happened that fast. Um, I find that I end up with muscle cramps when I dial up the vegetable consumption. I take that to mean I get more balanced nutrients when I am carnivore. That's important to know, and I do find that I feel like I lived a similar thing, Odette. For the most part, if you're losing weight, you're getting better, assuming that you're likely much overweight at the beginning. So, yeah, if you were a normal weight and you're losing weight, we want to stop that. But if you, yeah, I mean, so can I be losing weight and still putting my body in a problem? Theoretically, yes. So we do want to make sure that I'm not doing low carb, low fat either, because that could put my body in a problem. And I guess that would be another one of those ways where, again, my body would be trying to use fat off me. So then there's now, do I need to process that fat? I don't know. But like, again, if I'm keeping my fat too low, that's a problem for the body because I'm not going to be doing well. I'm going to be hungry. I'm going to have brain fog. I'm going to have all kinds of problems because now I don't have enough energy coming in and then my body's pulling from me, but it might, so it could, you will be losing weight, but you be fighting with your body. And the problem that happens is that in about 6 months, your body stops letting you lose weight. So your body's going to recalibrate for the fact that not enough energy is coming in. So you always want to make sure that you're eating enough energy, that you're not, being keto carnivore should not be the struggle that a normal standard American diet is, right? When you're dieting on a standard diet, it's a struggle. Nobody likes it. It's frustrating. It's annoying. But when you're doing keto and carnivore and you're doing it well, it's not a struggle. So I hope, like you're eating, the struggle is different, I should say. It's not that there's no struggle. The struggle is I might still be addicted, right? I might still want these other things, the garbage. And if I want the garbage and I try to go get the garbage, I can pull myself out of my ketogenic state. So my weight going down doesn't mean that I might not still be in some issues, and there might be things to solve. Goes to show how powerful it is. Yeah, gotta have substitutes when going keto. So I will say, Marla, that if you use if you use a keto treat as a transition, I see that. And I've talked about that before. There are lots of bars and things that are transitional, yes, because I would have normally had a real granola bar, but that's going to be like, how much carbohydrate in there. And then I have this keto friendly granola bar, or I have this keto friendly cookie. It's not as high in carbohydrate. It gets me through. However, am I working on the fact that I shouldn't need to snack between meals, for example? So I work on that so that I don't need these keto snacks anymore. But then I might decide, well, I'm going to have them for dessert because I still want to have dessert. Okay, great. Now they're your transitional dessert thing. But am I working on dessert isn't healthy, right? So dessert should be once in a blue moon, not every single day. Again, these are things that the food companies and like just even pharma, even nutritionists tell us that, oh, it's normal to have dessert. And when you look at the standard, or at least in Canada, let me talk about Canada, here in Quebec, because we've had meal plans drawn up for one of our kids. Why is there dessert with every meal? And there's not a day without dessert, but every meal there's a dessert listed. Why? Like, we, even in the world where they're trying to help us with our weight, are still being told to end on sweet. Why? And it's this mistaken idea that we have that, well, if we don't have a little bit of sweet sometimes, then we're going to chase it. That is not how it works. And I want every one of you that's listening to think of some substance that you're not chasing. A substance now, right? Whether, a crazy substance, like go far out there, not alcohol, something else that you don't chase. And the only reason you don't chase is because you never had it. On swear. Because even some of us have been pulled into the trap where we go to a party and we feel compelled to have a drink like everybody else. But if that substance was on the table, we'd be like, whoa, what kind of party am I at? I need to get out of here. That's what I'm talking about. We want a little sweet at the end of our meal because that's what we do. We have a little sweet at the end of our meal, and we have sweet between meals, and we have sweet because it's fun, and all of a sudden we're back chasing when we let that happen. So I want us all to understand that that doesn't need to be the case. But if we don't understand these company games, right, like having something in there not telling us, then we don't understand the larger scope of like, why are all these things all around us all the time? Odette, I have a thought about that as a still struggle with diet soda. Yeah, diet soda, I live that trap. When I first started my keto lifestyle, I had diet soda in between meals. So I already was only doing meals, but I don't know, I guess I wanted something to drink, and I didn't, at the time, I wasn't drinking just water yet. So I opened a diet soda, which normally I would have had with my meal, but I opened my diet soda and I drank it in between meals. And I couldn't make it to the next meal. I was so ravenously hungry. Did some more research and found out about the cephalic response to sugar, which means my brain reacts to sugar by creating space in my bloodstream for the incoming sugar that my mouth said, hey, this is coming. But the problem is there was no sugar coming because it was diet soda. And so then what happened? I was hungry and tempted to eat off plan. Now, I didn't. I just had supper earlier. That was back when I was having 2 meals a day. But it happened more than once because I didn't realize at first that it was the soda that was doing it to me. So it happened again. So pay attention, Wellness Warrior, because yes, these things, the diet soda is doing something. And it is not necessarily only, like, I don't know if it's messing with the electrolytes, but what I will say is it's probably messing with your ability to not want to have something else. I think they will try to sell you any old crap as long as they are making money. I too agree with you. Just too much. I just found out that LMNT uses only a trace amount of maltodextrin in its flavored packets, primarily as a binding agent flavor mix. I'm still not going to purchase it. Yeah, the problem is that what they're calling a trace amount, 400 milligrams, is about half a gram, which I don't consider that a trace amount. Right? Like if I can put something on a scale and my scale will read it, in my opinion, that's not a trace amount. Right? And if you watch Nick Norwitz's video, they're acknowledging 400 grams. So to me, I on my coffee scale, I can weigh out 400 grams, 400 milligrams, sorry, 400 milligrams. So that to me is not a trace amount. That's like, that would be 4 coffee beans, right? It's about, because each coffee bean is about 0.1 gram. So to me, that's not a trace amount. I'm sorry. I'm again, don't tell me what trace amounts are. No. You tell me how much is there, or you put it on the list so I can see that it's there, and I say, and then I take my decision. And even if it was the last thing on the list at 0.0001, I don't want maltodextrin in my food. And I should be able to say no to that. Marla, I would suggest that you stop drinking diet soda. Yeah, drink seltzer. Let's see. Lynn Scott. Hi, Lynn. How are you doing? I'm glad you were able to make it here today. I'm starting to think nothing is safe. What are we to do? I get leg cramps at night. I need something. Again, I encourage everybody. This would be a good experiment and if we could bring it up next week, I would love that. Like, I'm curious to know for the people who are complaining about leg cramps, A, do you drink coffee? B, do you drink more than 1 full 8-ounce glass of water per day? So like maybe 2 or 3. Like if you finish 2 glasses, I'm curious to know that. Because again, going back to that whole idea of like we need 8 glasses of water per day. In fact, all of that came about from scientists trying to figure out how much water we consume, not how much we need to drink. And in fact, we learned that in the food we eat throughout the course of the day, the average person was consuming 8 glasses of water, food, beverages, all of that added up together. So it wasn't meaning that we needed to add more water. It was just letting us know, hey, this is how much water we consume. So I do think that if people are trying purposefully to get in extra water, might be unnecessary. So I go back to something I say often is that how do I know if I'm really hungry? I'm getting a hunger signal and I take a sip of water. But you'll notice I don't say I drink a glass of water. I take a sip or two of water and then I move on with my day because I don't have to drink the full glass for that signal to stop happening. Now maybe if I'm actually really really thirsty, I might have to drink maybe half of it. But and usually that'll also play a part in it because when I start drinking, if I'm thirsty, it's like all of a sudden like, oh wait, I'm thirsty, and then I would drink more. If I'm just a little bit thirsty, I'll take a few sips and be like, okay, yeah, I'm good. But either way, 10 minutes later, the hunger signal didn't come back. I do think that a lot of us are over drinking because of this 8 glasses a day lie that we've been walking around with for so long. To me, unflavored products have flavor. Yes, we just have to train our palates. Yeah. If you had told me 10 years ago I'd be drinking tea and coffee without sugar, I'd have laughed. I've always been able to do tea without sugar for some reason. And maybe it's just because that's how I've always had it. But funny enough, hot chocolate, I used to put sugar in. So tell me how that makes any sense. These are the crazy things. We do our habits. I use a generous amount of salt in my food. I'm not afraid of it. Neither am I. Like honestly, I do salt my food separately than everybody else in the house because I put a bit more salt than on their stuff. But I do feel like, especially since the kids are not keto or carnivore, but I do feel that most people don't understand the great benefit that I get from adding the extra salt in terms of just like I don't know, I feel it. I feel like since I've stopped being afraid of putting the salt, all of this happened early in my keto career when I was understanding what's healthy, what's not healthy, when I got reminded by Dr. Barry about the sodium potassium pumps in all of our body because I did do sciences and I did know that at one point in time. The same way that I knew at one point in time that our body makes all the sugar that we need. As soon as Dr. Funk said it, it was like, yes, I know that. But then why did I not know it when it was important for me to know it? So I think that when we go back to basics and give our body what we it needs, it rewards us with good health. I remember that as a kid, I was a kid in the Cub Scouts. We used to have to take a salt pill back in the day, pre Gatorade and Powerade. Yeah, I would imagine if you're in the Scouts and you're outside in the sun and like whatever, like, so that would make sense too. You're probably sweating a lot. They're trying to keep you having enough salt. So let's see. We have bacon and eggs, hamburger, salt, water from my well. That is pretty much all I ingest. Love it. I bacon and eggs get two, maybe even three thumbs up from me. I love bacon and eggs. That's great, Robert. We also have to be mindful of the potassium, as sometimes we are mainly deficient in potassium because we don't eat sufficient food that contain potassium. That's where the cramps may be coming from. Um, so again, I kind of go back to Dr. Eid saying that the meat has all of what we need in the right proportions. And if I combine these two ideas together, I think that most people, especially women, undereat meat. I'm saying that having learned that I could have eaten much more meat than I was eating, one, but two, that ramping up the amount of meat that I eat did not result in weight gain. It resulted in a little bit of weight loss, actually. I do believe that we're still afraid to overeat. Now, keep in mind, if you overeat anything, you'll gain weight. Um, but the amount of meat that I've added for myself does not seem to be an overeat. And I've been also trying to get back to the idea that in nature, we wouldn't have always had the exact same amount of food. So I've been trying to vary how much I eat day to day to also help with that, so that I'm not always getting the same amount of food. Okay. Oh, there are quite a few more comments that have come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going a little bit faster because I do need to stop soon. And actually now I'm looking for maybe things that I can comment on. So the bottom line is that they were purposefully deceptive. Oof, I don't know if they were purposefully deceptive. This is part of where, if the comment was made and then like just not corrected, but like he tried to say it, and if it was a real mistake, then that's not purposeful deception there, like to the blog. I do think though that they not putting it on the packaging, that was purposeful, that was deceptive. But at the same time, I don't know that I can say every single person at the company was on board with that either. So how did it end up being the final decision? That's what it is. But I think the interesting thing for us all to think about, Wellness Warrior, is that when it comes to packaged foods and labeling, we assume that what's on the label is what's in the product. And I think that we should stop assuming that. Because especially for these keto companies, it's egregious and we get mad about it. But even normal companies mislead by labeling things with words that they know we won't understand. They mislead with categorizing things together so that they don't have to say the word. They do a lot of things that they can say, well, look, it's on there. It's natural flavor. Or look, it's on there. It's, thickening agent or whatever. Like they do a lot of things. Or it's that chemical word there. That's another word for maltodextrin. They do a lot of things that will let them get away with what they're doing. The difference here is because LMNT is a company that said that they don't use dodgy ingredients, right? Like that's the part that makes it hard for them to get away with this. It's that, whoops, oh, I'm in the wrong, oh, I took it off, I forgot. It's that part where they say they don't use dodgy ingredients. That's what that makes it hard. Because had they not had that on there, maybe we wouldn't be as outraged. Maybe. Because it does seem dodgy that you're saying you don't have sugar, but you have, yeah, so I don't know. Anyways. As you said, we normally don't have to just one serving of anything. Oh my gosh. Yep. What really bothers me is that they are also spend millions on influencing government through, oh, so I don't know if you're talking about companies in general now. Yes, companies in general, the big companies, PepsiCo, General Foods, like all the big companies, 100%, they're constantly manipulating the government. I remember I was new to low carb and picked up this huge bag of stevia from Walmart thinking I'd hit the jackpot, only to read the extra ingredients it had. Yeah, bag. Oh, you actually got it home. Had to throw it in the trash. That's unfortunate. I would have been actually quite angry about that. Any opinion on mayonnaise? If you make mayonnaise at home, yeah, it's great. I know you do have to put some mustard in it. I'm trying to think of what the ingredients of mayonnaise are. Salt, mustard, there's some lemon juice, I believe. But maybe if you're making mayonnaise, you don't need the lemon juice. I think that's only if you're making Miracle Whip. So there might not be lemon juice. Yeah, I think if you make it at home and it's all like healthy ingredients, so real food ingredients, and the mustard, I mean, you kind of do need it if you're making mayonnaise, but you can limit how much you put. So then like you can make it the least amount possible. Now, where you get your mustard from, that's a whole other conversation because mustard has stuff in it, right? So you're also trying to find a clean mustard. I'm wondering if there is such a thing as mustard powder. Again, it's everything's processed here, right? So you're either using mayonnaise processed. If you don't put mayonnaise, what would that do to the mayo? I've never tried that. So I honestly can't tell you like how would mayonnaise, so just egg and the oil and the salt, how would that be? I don't know. If I have pure mustard powder, the other things wouldn't be in it. How would that taste? But even that, now you're trusting that there's not any other things in that powder. So can I just point out to you that all that to say that I used to make mayonnaise and I've stopped because I couldn't figure out the mustard part. So that's where I got trapped because I used to use mayonnaise, especially like if I wanted to make egg salad. But yeah, I couldn't figure out. I couldn't figure it out, so I just put it down. So a couple of years ago, I breaded some chicken breast with a mixture of cooked ground beef and pork that I had left over, meat breaded with meat. It was delicious. That's interesting. So basically, it was already cooked. You coated. How did you get it to stick? Please give me more details. How did you get it to stick? Did you use egg? That's interesting. If you're still here, Odette, how did you get it to stick? 3,000 people minimum should be watching this and listening to. Oh, honestly, Robert, I would wish. I would wish. Share the video. That will help it to spread to more people. Maybe they'll come to next week's live stream. That would be fun for me. I make my own mayo. Is easy. I gave up Miracle Whip. Not mayo, LOL. Even mayo on the shelf with olives has unhealthy oils. Okay. And the thing is, I just love olive burgers. Olive burgers. Okay. Okay. They could have fixed their formulation and then made the announcement that when they found out about the maltodextrin, they jumped on it and changed things, and it would have been a much better look. It would have been a much better look. Would it have been true? So that's another question. But if they didn't know about it and then they found out and fixed it, that would have been the right thing to do. And I think everyone would have been happier with them. And even right now, the right thing to do is own up to your mistake and make some adjustments. Increasing my fat intake really helped me on the cramps. Okay, great. So more fat helped you with cramps. It seemed to give me a lot more energy. That makes sense as well. My coworker overhydrated and almost. Yes, there's such a thing. Oh, what is it called? There's actually a name for that where you could, if you drink too much water, it's almost like your brain gets flooded. And yes, you can pass from that. She lost so much mineral, and her heart was affected. She recovered, but it all happened on a mountain here in Korea. Ooh, yeah. We have to be careful. And actually, high elevation also tends to change. So if the elevation was higher than she's used to, it changes also our ability to use like how oxygenated we are, and so therefore how our body interacts with basically everything, right? I'm glad to hear that she was okay though. She recovered. I cleaned out the spices mix. I mainly season my food with salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder. Most spices mixes have those spices, but then unnecessary additives like sugar. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, the more single ingredient spices you use, the better. And then for me, salt. I really have leaned into the just salt, and I just love the taste of my food now. It's 1:58 in the morning here in Seoul. Oh, okay. I really enjoyed this conversation. Have an amazing week. Thank you for staying till 1:58. That's amazing. I know you're not here anymore, but oh wow. That yeah. So 12:58. So that was like an hour. Yeah, that was like a few minutes ago. Okay. Um. So yes, everyone wish him well for his sleep. I also make my own dessert when I feel I want something sweet, but I realize that can also be triggering. Absolutely. You know what? That was one of the things that I just learned to put down the idea of dessert, because even things that, first of all, I was watching all the keto doctors and all the keto channels, and they were just encouraging people, make this, make that, and something as simple as nuts started to trigger me. And I realized by the time I really decided to stop eating them, I noticed that when I would eat nuts, I would taste like they would taste sweet to me. And I think that we are trained to find the sugar and stuff. Sometimes that's helpful, right? If we haven't caught an animal in a long time, and then we find something, yeah, that's helpful because we needed it to survive. But the flip side of the coin is, if if I'm eating every single day, I don't need the extra sugar. So I did find that nuts became triggering to me, and I would overeat them, and I had to stop eating them as well. The real turning point was increasing my fat intake, and keto and carnivore. Yeah, I think increasing our fat intake, so it's a mixture. I still think that most people don't eat enough protein. At the same time, a lot of us will purchase a beautiful piece of meat and then cut the fat off and not eat it. And it blows my mind how often I see people do this. And I honestly feel like, again, it goes to this other part of the story, right? Because if I buy, let's say I buy a nice big steak, and then I'm eating only the muscle meat, and like trimming most of the fat away. Two things there is that I've just changed the fat ratio here, and I'm getting more protein than fat, which means that, because the whole point, wellness warrior, I'm going to say this again, we're supposed to be eating the meat with its accompanying fat. So if I keep trimming that fat away, then I'm going to, first of all, be able to get more protein in because it's the fat that's going to stop me from eating. But then I'm also like, right? So I do feel that, and even at that, most women don't put enough of a piece on their plate, and then they're trimming that fat away. We're getting more of the protein in, but not enough of the fat in. And so our body, I still think, struggles to do what it really wanted to do, and repair the things that it really needs to repair. Keep in mind, yes, my body needs amino acids, but it needs fatty acids too. That's important. They wouldn't be able to fit to do it if they wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't allowed by the FDA. Yeah, they they are not doing anything illegal or disallowed, especially since they're a supplement, right? They're not a food, and they're not a medication. So it's very, very tricky. There is mustard powder. I just bought some for a recipe. Okay, so there's pure mustard powder. Um, Actually, yeah. So whoever was looking to make I think it was you, Robert. I would probably try the mustard powder to see if it helps, and if it makes mayonnaise tasting mayonnaise. I don't think that the mustard powder is doing anything for the texture. I think that's happening because of the egg and the oil emulsifying. So I think theoretically it should, if it's going to work, it's going to work. Okay. Thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate it very, very much. Blessings to all. Know that we are loved. I love that. Marla, still here. Okay. So a pinch of Celtic salt under the tongue right before bed will do wonders for me when I was experiencing leg cramps. So do it before bed so that by the morning I'm good. I hope that sounds like a good idea. That actually sounds like a really, yeah, good idea. Good tip, Ron. Thank you. Yes, used eggs. The cooked ground pork and cooked ground beef were crumbly. I added some seasonings and chopped onions and peppers. I dipped the chicken leg in the mix. Sorry, I dropped the in the mix, and then my husband loved it. Okay, so okay, I might give that a try, Odette. I think that sounds interesting to me. I stopped looking for substitutes to foods I no longer choose to eat. I just do without them. I honestly am so happy with eating, well, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, that, yeah, I haven't even thought about a replacement anything, and I can't even remember how long. Um, it's fun. It's fun to just be able to eat real food and be happy about eating real food. Um, so I just I cringe when I see my friends on social media say that they're going to work on losing weight, and to do that they are going to stop eating meat, especially red meat. Honestly, that is a scary thing. I do feel like the one thing that we still believe is that this whole idea that fat makes you fat, and that red meat is going to cause a heart attack. And it's told not true. And yeah, but we're going to keep remembering. We're going to keep believing it because we were told it all the time. We're told it over and over on repeat. And there's a new article that's put up about it every other week to remind us that fat's going to make us fat and that red meat is the worst thing on the planet. I want to take a moment to thank my patrons because they do help me to take this hour per day, or 2 hours. It's been 2 hours to talk to you guys. So I appreciate that. If anybody would like to become a patron or a channel member, or actually just contribute directly, there's a link in the description below. And I and I want to go back to, I'm going to be doing this kind of interaction more often. I liked this back and forth talking to you guys. This was fun. Tammy, thank you. I appreciate the videos. You're always so informative. I'm so happy that these are informative. And I am planning to start a new group where I want to have this kind of interaction, but in an actual meeting. So I'm working on that, and I'm letting everybody who made it to the end of the video know, because I think you guys are probably the ones who will appreciate it the most, that I want to talk to you guys, and I want to have these kind of conversations about all kinds of things, about videos, about health topics. I want to talk about where we are and why we think the things we think. So I'm looking forward to that. And as soon as I have it set up, I'm going to let you know. If you want to know when that's happening, there's a link in the description where you can go to my web page. I believe it's there right now. If it's not, I'll add it after the stream. And you can go to my website and become a member of my webpage, and then you'll be notified when that group is ready. So looking forward to having real conversations with you guys like we do on Mondays. Just we'll do it in person, which is going to be really fun. So very happy to talk to you guys about this topic this week. It was a bit, it was exciting. I love the back and forth. And next Monday, I'm going to bring you something else to talk about. So have a great rest of your week. Eat real food, right? Let's not fall for the processed food trap. Eat real food. Stay healthy. Talk to you 11:20 next Monday. Have a good rest of your day, guys.